Look at our set. It's all decked out in SEC helmets. Looks like we've been working on some SEC content. Check it out. Just released the SEC schedule. Will they go with an 8-game or a 9-game conference schedule? What are the issues involved? Which way would I go? For the record, I would go with a flex schedule. And that can be discussed later and explained. But the Big Ten needs to do the same. The Big Ten is actually reviewing a flex schedule in addition to 2 other scheduling models, and the SEC should follow suit, but it appears as though the SEC is either going to go with a 366 or a 177 model. So we give you some options and give you our recommendation for what a 177 should look like for each SEC team and a 366 model for each SEC team as they expand with Texas, Oklahoma coming in this fall. And so, yes, check out the SEC video that we just posted on scheduling. And then our viewpoint, our take on the various issues involved. All right, welcome into the Voice of College Football. Our Tuesday menu typically leads off with Iowa live at 5:30 Eastern time over on the Iowa channel. So please follow us over there. And the Nebraska live show coming up at 7 p.m. Eastern time over. We do things logically here at the Voice of College Football. The Nebraska channel, yes, hosts the Nebraska live show. Yes, so you can all keep those straight. Iowa show on the Iowa channel, followed by Nebraska live on the Nebraska channel. How about that? We've got our program rankings out there. Please check them out. Also, the live stream that we presented to you a couple nights ago, taking your calls on our program rankings. I just heard from an irate one Connor Johnson, Oregon State Beavs fan, who says his program should in no way be ranked number blank. All right, let's dive into the latest. And this is not necessarily news. I wouldn't put this under the banner of news. These are speculative updates that come out to the mainstream media, what I consider to be now the mainstream media. CBS Sports and Dennis Dodd reporting earlier today that Colorado and the Big 12 are undergoing substantive talks, quote, substantive talks. I would love to know who the sources are because Dennis Dodd cites several sources every time I read an article from him, and that doesn't mean that that's not the case. But a lot of people can be sources. A lot of sources can be sources, whether credible or not. But Dennis Dodd, I've got no reason to believe or disbelieve him. I've got no reason to follow his work one way or the other. So I'm not in any way discrediting. I am somewhat crediting his work by going live this afternoon to follow up on what would be, again, not the latest news. This is not a news update. Anyone who's out there on YouTube or anywhere online that considers this news does not understand the journalism business. And I know that journalism is just about dead, both in the news realm and also in the sports realm to a lesser degree. Actually, I would say that journalism is being much better adhered to and practiced in the sports world than in the news world, where it's basically journalism is dead. I would love to see a journalist out there. But basically, this is not news. What this is this is an update on his sources. And so we are here to discuss that and bring you up to date in regards to what is being talked about out there. So let's take you through this story from Dennis Dodd, just released here on CBS Sports a few hours ago. And then also we will keep in mind that we've got a CBS SEC schedule that was just released today. And my thanks to our buddy Jackson Johnson, who sent that to me on Twitter, who DM'd me. And we want to run through what is historic. It's the final, at least for now. Who knows? CBS and the SEC might have a deal in 15 years from now. But for now, the final season of the SEC on CBS. And we'll look over the schedule and all the games. So much content we could be producing at this point. These things pop up every day with the SEC meetings in Destin, and I want to jump on that and give my viewpoint, the latest of what I believe should happen or what will happen. but I'm more based on my recommendations. So I've got my recommendation for the SEC, and it's the same as the Big Ten. It's the same for every other conference. Go to flex scheduling. Again, we can explain that at another time. I have in the past, but I would go with flex scheduling. It appears as though that is not on the table for the SEC. However, they've got a 177 model and a 366 model. I determined what I would do with those two models. And again, the video is posted. Thanks for watching that. Leave me your comments. All right, let's get to, again, this update via Dennis Dodd that I'm going to do my very best to not call any kind of breaking news or news update, because it is not that. It is a source update where Dennis Dodd is reporting as of 3 hours ago, Colorado holds, quote, substantive talks with Big 12 as Buffalo is considered leaving the Pac-12. So really, I did not see anything in this article that was new. The only update that I see in this is that the talks are still ongoing. It gives, okay, the new bit of information for me, and I'm not at the forefront of this. I am not the person to follow if you are just hog wild about realignment talk every second of every day. I only bring it to the forefront when I believe that there's something out there that is worth addressing. And certainly, once there is a move, like there was 2 years ago, Oklahoma, Texas, like there was last summer with USC, UCLA, this is your place to be, because then I will slice and dice it like nobody else in regards to scheduling considerations, division formats, pod formats, all the alignments of the conference, what it means, how much a particular school could compete, how well it projects that they will compete. We have thrown out all those videos for you, USC, UCLA versus the Big Ten, and the 4 schools that are entering the Big 12 against the Big 12. So once these moves are made, I will not sell us short as being the place to be to discuss what these moves mean and how they should be orchestrated. But in terms of the speculative nature of this, yes, I will address it once in a while. So the only 2 components in this that I am finding to be different would be, number one, and these, again, because I'm not at the forefront of this, could be items that have been out there for a long time. I don't know. Is that apparently, according to Dennis Dodd's sources, Deion Sanders, the head coach of Colorado, must give his okay to move to the Big 12. That's what it says here in this article. It also is letting us know that these talks are, again, according to a source, substantive. So there is a thought out there that these conferences talk to each other all the time, and therefore just saying that they're in conversations isn't necessarily anything meaningful. But when you say substantive, and then Dennis Dodd cites a few other writers in here, including the Oklahomans Barry Thamel, who reported Colorado is ready to commit joining the Big 12 soon. I will tell you, I notice since these articles and these writers and these journalists and these editors have transitioned from actual paper medium to online, they make way more mistakes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Latest round of realignments slowing to a crawl in recent weeks. Could be picking up steam again, according to CBS Sports and their sources. While a move out of the Pac-12 is not assured, Colorado performing due diligence to determine whether to return to the conference. And again, it is going back to the media rights deal for the Pac-12 being at the crux and at the center point of what is going to stabilize the Pac-12 or what is going to dissolve the Pac-12 or at least cause members to leave the Pac-12. There is another indicator in here, more than an indicator, just a flat out statement that many of these sources that Dennis Dodd calls sources say that if one of these schools leaves the Pac-12, then it will cause others to leave the Pac-12. And the ones that are connected most are, of course, the four corner schools of Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. I have left a link in the chat if you want to give me a call and talk Big 12 football and Colorado's possible move. If you want to talk the SEC schedule on CBS for a final season for the SEC on CBS, and we will show that and get to that in just a minute. So, again, pointing out substantive talks, pointing out that the talks are continuing, pointing out that the talks are face to face, all according to this article, and pointing out that Deion Sanders would have to approve the move. That's a foolish, foolish move. I believe that's a foolish move by Colorado. You give the respect to the head coach to discuss it with them, but a first-year head coach who's accomplished nothing in the Power Five and who may be hitting the road to go somewhere better in 3 years or 2 years or whenever, and you're going to give him the power and the ability to approve or disapprove of this move? Again, include your head coach in the talks and include him even more if he reaches the status of Dabo Swinney or Nick Saban or Kirk Ferentz, where he has equity and investment in the program, and he has done something there. He has accomplished there. He's invested his life, he's invested his career, and either he's accomplished great things like a Saban or a Sweeney, or he has invested great lengths of time and his career and done good things even outside of football, Kirk Ferentz, and we could name some others. But do not give this right and this privilege and this authority to Deion Sanders. That makes absolutely no sense. I don't get that. Maybe that's being overstated, but it seems to be pretty clear in this article that Deion Sanders has some type of approval authority. All right, let's go to the phone lines. We appreciate Alex checking in. Alex, how you doing?
Hey, doing all right. How about you?
I am doing just fine. What's going
Yeah,
on today?
what you just said about Coach Prime, I mean, it's exactly right. Like, ignoring the dynamics of realignment, like having him be the say-so of where Colorado possibly goes, that's nuts because ignoring the realignment aspect just for a second, I saw a bit of Jackson State like last season, with all the, well, when he was hired and whatnot, just to see like, okay, what does this guy have? And I don't know if you saw Jackson State or any SWAC football. Like,
No.
okay, let
Besides
me,
I saw the bowl game.
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw them a replay of Alabama State. That's when he had the tiff with their coach
Yeah.
and that, yeah. Here's the thing, like Coach Prime got some legit 5 stars to play at with him at Jackson State. And when you have those kinds of dudes, just like the eyeball test, I was like, okay, I can see why he ran wild over the SWAC. Like the there was a there's a pretty big talent. Like you can definitely tell this ain't SEC, this isn't Power Five, this is a step lower. So he's a hell of a recruiter, and when you can get that kind of talent, especially at a place like Jackson State, like you already are half of a pretty good football coach. So the thing with uh Coach Prime in Colorado is Colorado this next season. I think they're gonna go if they go 5-7, he should win a bunch of Coach of the Year awards because Colorado has like again I'm watching Colorado last year when they beat Cal for their only win of the year. Colorado is like the Colorado was so bad. If Coach Prime can actually get them like on the cusp of eligibility, that will just be like amazing. But yeah, you're right. Like this, like yeah, he can recruit, but he hasn't proven anything other than like getting 5 stars at Jackson State and then went, crushing the SWAC. Like, he's just again getting 5 stars to come to an HBCU. That's one thing, but then actually like winning at Power Five, and now to give him the the say so of hey, you can determine where we go. Like that's like come on, like Colorado is not that that like for them to do that would be like ridiculous. That yeah, so you're totally right on that. And then just on the realignment aspect for a minute, Colorado left the Big 12 for one reason, which was Nebraska was gone. Nebraska was their rival, and with Nebraska gone, there was like, okay, we have no reason to be here. We want to go out west. So for them to pull back again, like if Colorado is the one school that kind of tips this whole thing over, that would surprise me. But I don't. Again, I think though some school will tip it over. If Colorado was that school, that would be surprising to me.
Yeah. So your second point there, I think, is a really good one in that there are certain schools that obviously have a lot of cachet and have connection to other schools. Because Colorado is a new member in the Pac 12 with only a decade invested, I don't see a connection between Colorado and anyone else in the conference that you see that USC, UCLA connection, Arizona, Arizona State. I could see it more so if Arizona State left for the Big 12, that Arizona and those two schools would be connected. But I don't put anybody, I know that the Pac 12 has paired Utah in a final game with Colorado because of geography and because
Yeah, but
they just need somebody to pair them with, but I don't think that has anything to do with anything meaningful. So I agree with you there. Yep.
Yeah. So out of like the it's funny that we talk about the four corner schools. There wasn't like they were never referenced into that, by that distinction until this current cycle of realignment. But Colorado, to me, out of those four, would be the least likely to leave for what you said. Like there's, the only thing that swung Colorado in the Big 12 was Nebraska. And so why would they, like, other than media rights or what have you, and to what you started this off with, how there's no news anymore, it's all like basically hearsay and rumor. Like as much as I'm irritated about the non-news about a impending Pac-12 deal, which, and I've said before, when the LA schools left, I've been waiting for the Pac-12 to collapse since last summer. I don't think there's going to be a deal or whatever deal it, like, yeah, when does the carnage begin, essentially? The other side is like the Big 12 honks of this school is talking to the Big 12. This school is interested in the Big 12. Like, if some school's going to leave, then who is it and when? Like, I'm just waiting for everything to start falling down. And so I don't know what's more exasperating, the non-existent deal talks or the non-existent, this school is talking to the Big 12 and is going to go to the Big 12.
Yeah. So I follow you there, except for I understand that nobody's making a move until they see this media rights deal. So I do understand that component, and that being the linchpin in making and bringing schools to that determination that they want to see the numbers.
Yeah. And it's a very odd circumstance where we want to see the numbers that we don't expect to be the numbers that we want, that will then defeat the purpose of having the deal to begin with, right? So it's sort of like just give us the final like sort of the climax to all of this, and then let everything tip over. So it's a very like, I'm really surprised that a guy like Kliavkov, who's really shown some bravado in all this, that he decided to step into the job where it's essentially, to me, a dead end. Like, I've said this since last summer. I don't expect this thing to last very long. But anyway, yeah. Thanks for talking, Mark. And another, like, again, what's the next thing that we're going to see on who's going to the Big 12? We'll see.
Yeah, I am just desperately waiting for this media rights deal and to get the conclusion of that and see what that is. And another one of these quote unquote reports from sources that we hear. And every time I do that, I am not doubting or criticizing. I'm just saying that I am neither a proponent of these so-called reports to say I am not backing them to say that they're legitimate, nor am I criticizing them to say that they're not legitimate. I am simply raising the points that seem to be new to me and then allowing you guys to respond, and I respond as to what I think is meaningful and what's speculative. But that the point is, we've heard this a number of times, that the revenue distribution has to stay within roughly 10% of what they could get in the Big 12 for them to stick around.
Yeah, well, they'll get it, but then we'll be playing games on I don't know, like I joke with some of my like Oregon buddies of, hey, we'll be playing on a gas station TV network or something, whatever.
It's kind
Yeah.
of looking like that. Yeah.
Hmm.
We're all going to be searching around for Pac-12 games if we want to
Well,
see
I
them.
mean, like even I again, like I can't even. I'm in San Francisco. I don't watch Pac-12 network because I have YouTube TV, which doesn't have Pac-12 network. Right? We can't even watch it even within our market. So go figure.
Yeah,
Um,
right down the street.
yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, yep. Thanks for chatting, man.
Thanks, Alex. I
Yep.
appreciate the call. Have a good day. Good to talk some Pac-12 football, even if it is under these circumstances, because I do love to hear from fan bases that aren't normally part of this conversation. Not this particular conversation, but the conversation on the channel. So we hear from Alex, a Cal fan, and we get our resident Utah fan, Larry, in here. Larry, how's it going today?
Good, Mark. How are you?
I am doing just fine. I thought that is, even though this is just kind of more of the same in a certain way, I did see a few points in here that I wanted to bring light to, and I just thought it was time to check in on the Pac-12 that is spinning. The what is that? That there's a soap opera term from a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
As the
As the
Pac-12
world
turns,
turns,
as the Pac
yeah,
turns, yes.
yeah. So it's so crazy because I keep hearing they have no deal, they have no deal. It's like the Pac-12 doesn't have a deal. They've had offers. They had an offer before the Big 12. They turned it down. I wish Tony could come on, and I wish he could talk a little bit more. I've kind of heard some news yesterday, but I don't think Oregon and Washington have any interest in helping the TV negotiations. We'll just put it that way. And I don't blame Colorado for looking for greener pastures at all. So, and also Dion does, whatever's been reported, Dion does not have that kind of say. I don't care what anybody reports. Because there was an interview with Kyle Whittingham, who once he retires is VP or president of football operations after he retires, and he doesn't have a say. And so you have a guy that's going to be tied to the university for years to come, where Dion, there's no contract, there's nothing to say he's going to be there in 4 years. So I don't agree with the Dion thing. I think that's just bad reporting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just can't imagine. Unless, some reporters take the approach that, hey, if I've got sources and I consider them to be credible, if they say something, then I can just go ahead and throw it out there, even if I don't believe it, and just cite it as sources say, and then my hands are washed of the situation and the claim, and I could just throw it on sources say.
Right. And I think Colorado is doing their due diligence. They're being very smart about looking at a backdoor option. With everything seemed to be okay until we got rumblings from Big Ten people. I don't know, an Illinois guy and then a Nebraska guy saying, hold on, the door's not shut. So, the fun. And so I don't know if you have anybody in the Big Ten. And I mean, I've heard that Oregon and Washington, Stanford and Cal, are not going to be brought in on a charity case, is what I've been told. So I don't know. What's your perspective from a Big Ten, Oregon, Washington, the flight you see coming down the pipe?
I think that there is too much pushback within the Big Ten. I think that there are factions of the Big Ten that are either supportive of Washington and Oregon, or they're at least willing to listen and continue to talk and keep the door open. And that's why we hear vetted and cleared. That's why it's not been a slammed door yet. But I believe that ultimately And certainly right now that there are stronger factions within the Big Ten, meaning more prominent members of the Big Ten that are keeping those two at bay, and just see a different course for this conference via Notre Dame / the ACC schools.
Right. Wait until they brought everything out to the buffet before you start with your plate. Right.
Yeah, I think,
I mean,
when you're in a position of strength, then why jump at something that you consider to not be the ultimate of what you would like, at the conclusion.
Right. And so I think Colorado's been in talks, and they could leave. That will not tank the Pac-12. And I think I've said this before, Mark. I feel like Oregon, Washington, and Utah, from a football standpoint, kind of hold up the conference. And if you get a combination of those leaving, even say Utah left with Colorado, I still think the Pac-12 would be fine if just say those two teams left. Because I mean, really, if you look at the ACC, how many teams are really? Can you say how many teams do they have? We know Big Ten's got 3 definite, prominent year in, year out teams, with Wisconsin and Michigan State making an appearance now and then. So the legitimacy of still having a decent football presence would remain if just Oregon and Washington were there, from my standpoint.
You don't think that's a thin layer at the top?
It's a thin layer. It's definitely a thin layer. But I mean, we can go as thin as one Clemson for a decade, almost nearly a decade in a conference, with other teams barely showing up now and then. A North Carolina here and there, but
yeah, if you're just talking about on the field performance,
yeah,
I'll agree with that. But
that's what
it's not like Washington has delivered all the time. They're pretty spotty too. And then if you go past on the field and go to the brands, then you bring in Florida State and Miami, and I just think that the ACC has much more there, top to bottom. If those schools would leave, if Utah leaves, Colorado, what have they brought? They're bringing potential.
Yes, and I think the Pac could survive with 2 exits, but not 2 exits that include Washington and Oregon.
Yeah,
that's my opinion. It's not facts; it's just opinion. So,
nobody is the facts, Larry. Nobody is.
Yeah,
facts.
The facts I do have is actually Oregon, outside Notre Dame. And I've heard Notre Dame's viewership has been, outside of 2020, it's not been, I mean, it's decent, it's respectable, but Oregon actually and FSU are actually the top 2, not named Notre Dame, left with viewership ratings. I'm not talking brand or national championships, but actual what the networks get paid for. It's actually FSU and Oregon that are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I have heard that. It's been a while, but I've heard that. Yes. And I don't know exactly how that breaks down, but yeah, that Oregon and Florida State, both in terms of just recent eyeballs and, going back a decade, both have held their positions as being the best of the rest.
Right. All right. Well, I thought I'd just throw in my thoughts on this, Mark.
Thank you so much, Larry. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks.
Have a good one.
You too.
We keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. James Smith, thank you so much for that. James A. Smith, thank you for the contribution. That is very nice of you, sir. We've got our buddy Jackson.
What's
Check
up?
it in. What is up?
Going pretty good. How's it going with you, man?
It is going just fine. Enjoying the nice summer weather.
Yep, summer. Where do we begin? Well, that time of the year again, 88 days until week 0 and 93 days until week 1. Looking forward to all that. So, what's your take on the SEC on CBS schedule? Like, for example, South Carolina, Georgia being the week 3 game.
Okay, well, let's give it a look because I got to tell you that I have not given it a look, but we wanted to make that part of the show as well. So, is this going to give me some kind of a here we go? All right. So, again, as has been the case in the past, CBS doesn't get into the game the first 2 weeks of the season. So we skip ahead to week 3. We got September 16th, South Carolina at Georgia. Now, without seeing the rest of the SEC schedule, it's kind of difficult for me to determine what they're weighing that against. But, and then we see the next 4 weeks, we've got nothing. They're going to see how the games play out and who's hot and who's not and go from there.
Yeah. Well, week 4, I have a feeling Bama Ole Miss will be on there. Because that's obviously going to be a good one. I mean, I don't think they're going to put Auburn, Texas A&M on there.
Is this being released for the first time today?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, this article just came out like 2 hours ago, and now I'm looking at it and seeing how thin it is. That there's really not that much there. They're basically just telling us that they scheduled South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, when I would love to know the last time Georgia and Florida did not play on CBS. And then we know that Missouri and Arkansas are going to play on Black Friday because, again, that has been a game that's played. Yeah. And then that's pretty much the schedule besides this Air Force Navy game.
Well, we know that there's one Big Ten on CBS game that's announced on CBS so far, and that's Iowa Penn State for week 4. That's going to be a nighttime game. My question is, because of it being the only year that the SEC and the Big Ten share CBS,
yes,
do you think we'll see like a lot of SEC Big Ten double headers?
Well, we have to just look at the schedule.
Cool.
If they're showing us that they're showing us every one of these weeks, there's a 3:30 CBS SEC game every week of the season. All those are 3:30 games.
Oh, yeah.
Therefore, the only time that they can show a Big Ten game would be either at 7 o'clock or at noon.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't believe they're going to show too many at noon because Fox is going to have that. So you're going to see some nighttime, just like with Iowa Penn State, nighttime Big Ten games that are going to be right after the SEC is going to hate this. They're going to have their old network in its last season doing their games at 3:30, having to promote the game that's coming up.
Yeah.
It'd be different the other way around because at least the Big Ten game would be out of the way and already done. And besides showing a few highlights, which they already do for every game anyway at halftime, the game would be over and they'd be done with it and they wouldn't promote the game. But they're going to be promoting these Big Ten games big because this is their future during the SEC games.
Well, we know that Ohio State, Michigan's obviously not going to be on CBS. That's a Fox game for sure.
Yes.
Iron Bowl's likely to be on CBS for the final time for a while. We know that there's going to be a Black Friday double header, I guess, for the Big Ten. Iowa, Nebraska, probably on Fox or Big Ten Network or Fox Sports 1. Penn State, Michigan State, Ford Field on NBC. It's going to be really fun figuring out what's going on with the schedules. Week 12 for the SEC, there's not a whole lot of exciting games with the exception of Georgia, Tennessee. So maybe they do Georgia, Tennessee, and say Nebraska, Wisconsin for week 12. I mean, the battle between Matt Rule and Luke Fickell, that's going to be pretty big.
Well, let's see what we got here. So we have, let's pop the schedule up here from the start. These are the SEC games. Let's get past, let's go into the conference games. So starting with, oh, why did it do that? Oh, am I going to have to click on every week? Okay. Let's go to the first week of the CBS schedule is the 16th. So CBS has South Carolina, Georgia.
Yep.
Tennessee, Florida.
That's likely to be an ESPN game.
That, yeah, that looks like a 7 o'clock ESPN game.
Yeah.
That looks like a 7 Eastern ESPN. And then
Kansas State, Missouri looks like an 11 a.m. game.
Yeah, for you folks in the Central Time Zone, yeah, that looks like that is most likely a noon Eastern on ESPN. And then they'll piece together all that SEC network business, but there's really nothing else there outside of maybe Ole Miss and Georgia Tech will play on ABC like they did this past season.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a 2:30 game. BYU, Arkansas, that looks like a 2:30 game on ESPN.
BYU and Arkansas, do they play again? Yes, they do. BYU and Arkansas. Okay, I missed that. Yeah, they played on ESPN at 3:30 this past
Yeah, season. I wish we got to see BYU play Tennessee again this year, but last year Tennessee chickened out of playing BYU. They're like, we're not going to Provo, Utah. We're replacing these guys with Virginia. I don't think. Well, Memphis, Missouri's not a CBS game, obviously.
Yeah, well, obviously we've seen Auburn, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss, Alabama play a lot of CBS games.
Texas San Antonio is a Group of 5 team to watch out for, although not good enough to be on CBS, unfortunately. Bama, Ole Miss, likely the CBS game.
Yeah, unless Texas and A&M and Auburn possibly take off. If they both win their non-conference games and they're sitting there at 3-0, that's a possibility, or 4-0 at that point. I don't know, 1, 2, 3-0.
I mean, Texas A&M, you know, their toughest game will be Miami before they play Auburn, and it's at Miami. Jimbo does not do so hot on the road usually. As for Auburn, they got an easy peasy schedule before they play A&M.
They do. They do have a trip to Cal, but yeah, they're not good, obviously.
Yeah, they got the old Pooh Bears. Texas A&M, Arkansas looks like a CBS game. Georgia, Auburn's looking like a ESPN 11 a.m., 7 p.m. game. I'm not sure. Florida, Kentucky looks like a CBS game on account of Kentucky having Florida's number as of recently.
Yeah, I get where you're going with that. And actually, this week doesn't have any like Titanic games, but it's got a lot of games that are pretty equal. Like every game there except Mizzou and Vandy is almost a pretty equal game. I got to tell you, Jackson, though, even if the records don't line up, CBS, they swing heavy Georgia Auburn.
Yeah.
I don't know that hasn't been too many Georgia Auburn games not on CBS, including last year.
Right. 2020, I believe, wasn't on CBS last year. I mean, last year was on 2:30. Then we had Alabama, Texas A&M. LSU, Ole Miss looks like a good CBS game because, I mean, Brian Kelly versus Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful matchup.
Yeah. That could be the one for that week.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia, Kentucky played on CBS last year.
Alabama.
Alabama, Texas A&M is probably the game.
Yeah, that's a dead giveaway right there.
Looks like it. Week 7, October 12th, or whatever date that is, 14th. Texas A&M, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, if A&M can surprise some people, and if Tennessee can keep where they're going like they did last year, there we go.
Alabama and Arkansas have played a lot of CBS games.
Yeah.
Obviously, Auburn and LSU have through the years played a ton of CBS games. But Auburn isn't what they typically are. We'll see. Ole Miss, Auburn, South Carolina, Missouri, Alabama, Tennessee. There you go.
Oh, obviously. Watch for that Army LSU game. Army's pretty dangerous against Power 5 schools.
Yeah, that's an intriguing one.
Oh, yeah. Florida, CBS.
Yeah, it's already there. We go to week 10 and a November 4th weekend. Alabama, LSU.
Yep.
Bingo.
Certainly not Jacksonville State, South Carolina.
Oh, come on, Jackson. Saturday the 11th. If things run the way they're supposed to, I guess maybe LSU and Florida. Well, Florida could be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Georgia, Ole Miss. I don't know. There's a lot of options there, or a few options that aren't great.
Maybe they'll put Alabama, Kentucky on CBS because
they might.
Because Lexington's got to have a CBS game.
And then wrapping up the season here, we've got this week, which is the notorious give up week in the SEC, but Georgia and Tennessee are playing. So there you go. That's a bit surprising to me. Georgia and Tennessee are playing the next to the last week of the season. And then, yes, Alabama, Auburn, most likely with Ole Miss, Mississippi State on ESPN on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's going to be really good. If Texas A&M, LSU play their LSU can play their cards right in the regular season. Now let's just see if A&M can play their cards right in the regular season. Maybe that could be a CBS game. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's Alabama, Auburn. There would have to be some type of, maybe if LSU and Texas A&M are playing for the division.
Yeah.
That would sway it, of course.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything else, my man?
Nothing much except that the Big Ten announced week 2 and week 3 for the NBC games from Brett McMurphy that Charlotte versus Maryland will be on NBC at night, and
Charlotte and Maryland.
Yep. And Syracuse going to Purdue will be on NBC Saturday night for week 3. We know that West Virginia, Penn State will be on NBC, but I'm kind of just like, oh, wait, why isn't Iowa? Oh, right. That's a Big 12 game. Oh, man.
Yeah, they're playing at Iowa State, so it swings that direction.
I honestly...
I can't get over this. Charlotte and Maryland are playing on NBC at night.
Well, you know what they say, truth is stranger than fiction.
What week is that?
Week 2. I guess they couldn't put Purdue at Virginia Tech because NBC doesn't have the ACC. Illinois at Kansas, that's going to be on a Big 12. That's a Big 12 game either on ESPN or Fox. Iowa at Iowa State, ESPN, Fox. Washington.
Well, it shouldn't matter if Maryland's playing at home.
Right.
No, what did you just point out? You pointed out Purdue and Virginia Tech. Where's that game?
It's at Virginia Tech. But
okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the Virginia Tech of old yet. Let's see. Eastern Michigan, Minnesota. That's an underrated game to watch out for because Eastern Michigan's pretty dangerous against Power 5 teams.
What in the world? Well, Nebraska, Colorado, Wisconsin, Washington State, Iowa, Iowa State, Illinois, Kansas. Those are going to take up that many spots?
Well, unfortunately, they're road games for the Big Ten.
Okay, Nebraska, Colorado. That's going to be a Fox game on, I would think, under the Big 12 contract. Wisconsin, Washington State.
Yeah.
Could still be an ESPN/ABC game.
Or a Fox game on account of this being
a Fox game. Yeah.
Yeah. Because but hey, it gets stay till 1 a.m. the game.
Yeah. See, these the larger these contracts get, the more that these networks may push for these schools to do what I've been recommending forever in these conferences, and that's to work together and build a schedule, not just have everyone running around building their own schedule, their own non-conference schedule.
Right.
Because then this is what results.
Yeah. So we got ourselves quite a schedule to figure out.
All right, Jackson. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me on, Mark.
All right. Good to see you. Have a good one.
You too.
We will keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football and remind everyone that in less than 8 minutes, we'll be on the Iowa channel with the Hawkeyes live show with Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll take our call from Chris. But first, Jason, thank you so much for the super sticker contribution, Jason, and his Michigan fandom. Chris, how you doing?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you? You're doing good? I'm doing... Oh, he's gone. If anybody else wants to jump in, we've got a few minutes to take a call. And again, I got to say that CBS schedule release for the SEC in its final season for right now is a big, big disappointment for me. I thought that had like video release written all over it when I saw CBS announces its final SEC schedule for 2024. Well, they announced 3 games, and I could have guaranteed you that 2 of them were already going to be on the schedule. Georgia, Florida. When is the last time that they were not on CBS? Somebody find that out for me. And then Arkansas, Missouri. Yes, Arkansas, LSU, Arkansas/LSU, Missouri. They always play on that Friday on CBS, the last weekend of the season. So that news release was a non-news release. They told us 1 game, Georgia, South Carolina. So I thought I was going to be able to run through the CBS schedule and have some comments to make on that. But yes, that is a non-news item. Then the other one, of course, was what we led off with, and that was Colorado and the Big 12 having, according to Dennis Dodd and his sources, substantive talks. And so if you missed our commentary off the top and the calls that we took, please check them out. The video will post immediately. Actually, as I understand it, you can watch the feed while the feed's going on, but you don't have to watch it up to the minute. You can watch earlier. We are going to take one other call if that call would ever come through. We've got just a couple minutes before we're going to run on over to the Iowa channel, talk Hawkeyes. Of course, looking for a new athletic director for the first time in 17 years as Gary Barta has retired. Don't want to get those terms mixed up. I believe it's a retirement. We're going to talk, unless Corey's got some Iowa football news for us, our Big Ten power rankings, our Iowa program ranking, which you all have seen, I'm sure, and then our Big Ten quarterback rankings and where one Cade McNamara stands in our Big Ten quarterback rankings. So Iowa Hawkeyes live in 5 minutes on the Iowa channel, then Nebraska live at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And yes, I will I guess, do my due diligence to swap out all the SEC helmets for our Iowa show. Even though we do not have an Iowa helmet, Hawkeye fans have not sent me a Hawkeyes helmet. We do appreciate everybody being here, and as Exploring with Ben has stated, smash that like button on your way out. Give that a hit, and check out the SEC scheduling video, whether that's 3 permanent opponents or 1. I've got the rundown for each. So check it out and head on over with me to the Iowa channel where we talk Hawkeyes. Even if you're not an Iowa fan, I am going to just about promise you a good time on the Iowa show. So check us out over there on the Iowa channel. And we get revved up with Hawkeyes Talk in just a couple minutes. We will see you there in just a few minutes. Thanks for being here.